In 1976, Mark Fidrych was not just a rookie pitcher having a good year, he was the event. A 10th-round pick with no grand forecast behind him, he led the majors with a 2.34 ERA, won American League Rookie of the Year, finished second in the Cy Young vote, and made Tiger Stadium wait for curtain calls after complete games. Then, the record changes. By 1980, the same pitcher who had packed ballparks and started an all-star game as a rookie was almost out of the majors. By 29, he was done. For years, the public remembered the talking to the ball, the mound routine, the nickname, the bird. But the case file points to a harder question. How did one of baseball's brightest young pitchers become remembered more as a moment than as an ace? On June 28, 1976, at Tiger Stadium, Mark Fidrych beat the New York Yankees 5-1 in an hour and 51 minutes. The game ended, but the night did not. 47,855 people stayed put, waiting for the rookie pitcher to come back out of the dugout and give them a curtain call. That was the point where Fidrych stopped being just a good story in Detroit and became a national one. ABC had him on Monday Night Baseball, Bob Prince, Warner Wolf, and Bob Uecker in the booth, and the broadcast caught all of it. The pace, the personality, the way he seemed to treat the mound like it was his own private workspace. He talked to the ball. He circled the mound after outs. He patted the dirt down and would not let the grounds crew fix it in the middle of an inning. The country saw a rookie who looked unlike anybody else in the majors, and the crowd saw something even harder to explain. They saw a pitcher controlling a game with a kind of authority that did not feel accidental.
That night makes more sense when you go back to the beginning, because Mark Fidrych was not supposed to arrive that way. He was a 10th-round pick by the Detroit Tigers in the 1974 amateur draft out of Worcester Academy in Massachusetts. He later joked that when he got the phone call telling him he had been drafted, he thought it meant the armed services, not a major league team. In the minors, a Lakeland Tigers coach gave him the nickname The Bird because he looked like Big Bird from Sesame Street. That was the first hint that baseball would remember him for something more than his arm. But at the time, there was no grand forecast here, no can't-miss label, no polished pipeline story. Just a tall right-hander from Northborough, the son of an assistant school principal, moving through the system with enough ability to get noticed and not enough hype to make him inevitable. And then Detroit got him into a major league uniform, and the evidence started piling up fast. Fidrych joined Tigers spring training in 1976 and made the roster, but his major league debut did not come until April 20. Even then, the early usage did not scream future phenomenon. Through mid-May, he had thrown only one inning. The first real sign came in his third appearance, on May 15th, when he made his first major league start against Cleveland. Bruce Kim, who had caught him at AAA Evansville the year before, was behind the plate again. Fidrych held the Indians hitless through 6 innings and finished with a 2-hit, 2-1 complete game victory, 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. That game had the baseball part. It also had the part nobody could quite categorize. He talked to the ball. He strut-walked around the mound after outs. He bent down and fixed the dirt.
Sports writer Jim Hawkins summed up the reaction in the Detroit Free Press with a line that fit the moment perfectly. He really is something to behold. Rico Carty, who was playing for Cleveland, said he thought Fidrych was trying to hypnotize them. The first question was simple enough. Was this just a strange debut, or the start of something real? Then came the next few starts, and the question got harder to dismiss. On May 25 at Fenway Park, 2 busloads of fans from Northborough showed up to see him pitch in Boston. He gave up 2 earned runs, both on Carl Yastrzemski's home run, and took his first major league loss
even though he pitched well. A few days later, he went 11 innings for a complete-game win over Milwaukee, then another 11-inning complete-game victory over Texas. By the time June settled in, Fidrych was not just surviving, he was stacking starts. The run through June is the kind of record that changes a player's status in real time. On June 11, he beat California 4-3 in a complete game in front of 36,377 on a Friday night at Tiger Stadium. On June 19, he beat Kansas City 4-3 before another big crowd. On June 24, he went back to Fenway with family and friends in the stands, gave up back-to-back home runs to Fred Lynn and Yastrzemski, and still won his 6th straight start. Then came June 28 and the Yankees game on Monday Night Baseball, the night the curtain call turned into a national image. On July 3, before a sellout crowd of 51,650, he shut out Baltimore 4-0 and improved to 9-1 with a 1.85 ERA. Even the loss on July 9 did not cool the moment. He held Kansas City to 1 run in 9 innings, lost 1-0 to Dennis Leonard, and Tiger Stadium still would not let him leave without coming back out.
That is the part of Fidrych's story that people remember first. The oddness, the theater, the way fans treated him like a neighborhood hero who had somehow wandered into the majors and taken over. But the record says there was more than novelty here. He was named to the 1976 AL All-Star team, only the second Tiger aged 21 or younger to make it, after Al Kaline. He was also named the starter, becoming just the second rookie ever to start an All-Star game. He gave up 2 earned runs in the first inning, none in the second, and took the loss. The outcome mattered less than the fact that he was there at all. A 10th-round pick was now starting the All-Star game as a rookie. That is not the path the sport expected. It is not even the path a lot of teams would have believed if they had seen it drawn up in advance. And yet the season kept giving him more. 3 days after the All-Star game, he won his 10th game with a 1-0 victory over Oakland. 4 days after that, in Minnesota, the Twins released 13 homing pigeons on the mound before his start. Fidrych said they were trying to blow his concentration. It didn't work. He pitched another complete game and improved to 11-2. On July 24, though, the first real crack showed up in public. He gave up 4 earned runs on 9 hits, lasted only 4 1/3 innings, and the Tigers needed John Hiller in long relief. After the game, Fidrych was interviewed on live television and said bullshit on the air. He later explained that Tony Kubek had said it looked like he was going to cry, and he was just answering honestly in the moment. The next day, he got a telegram saying Bowie Kuhn had fined him $250. It was a prank from his teammates.
That was part of the fun around Fidrych too. The fact that he had become important enough for everybody to kid around with the machinery of the game itself. The baseball kept coming. On July 29 and August 7, he threw back-to-back 6-hit complete games, winning 1 and losing 1. On August 11, he beat Gaylord Perry. On August 17, the Tigers drew a season-high 51,842 fans as Fidrych beat Frank Tanana and went to 14-4. On August 25, he shut down the White Sox in a 3-1 win in just 108 minutes. Then the late-season grind started to show. Between August 29 and September 17, he lost 3 straight decisions, and his record slipped to 16-9. Even then, he finished strong, beating Cleveland twice more than Milwaukee on the final day of the season for his 19th win. The final line from 1976 is what made the whole thing impossible to ignore. Fidrych led all of MLB with a 2.34 ERA and a 1.58 ERA+, led the AL with 24 complete games, won Rookie of the Year, was runner-up for the Cy Young Award to Jim Palmer, and landed 11th in AL MVP voting.
In 18 home starts, the Tigers went 12-6, and the crowd averaged 33,649. In his non-starts, the team drew only 13,843. That is not just a good rookie. That is a pitcher who changed the way a team and a city moved through a season. And the fame spilled past the box score. Tiger Stadium became a place where fans waited for the bird to come back out and tip his cap. Other teams reportedly wanted Detroit to rearrange the rotation so Fidrych would pitch in their parks. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated twice, including one issue with Big Bird, and on the cover of Rolling Stone, still the only baseball player to appear there. The Sporting News featured him too.
He was famous enough that 5 different people asked to be his agent in 1 week, and he turned each one down, saying, "Only I know my real value and can negotiate it." He was also famous for how little he seemed interested in acting famous. He drove a green subcompact car, lived in a small Detroit apartment, and wondered whether he could even answer all his fan mail on a league minimum salary of $16,500. He said that if he had not been a pitcher, he would have been happy pumping gas in Northborough. The Tigers rewarded the year with a $25,000 bonus and a 3-year contract worth $255,000. He did an Aquavelva commercial after the season. He was even considered for the role of Tom Chisholm in Grease before the part went to Lorenzo Lamas. That is how far and how fast the story reached. But by then, the key question had already changed. It was no longer, is this rookie real? It was, how long can this last? The answer came in the spring of 1977, and it came from the body. Fidrych tore cartilage in his knee while fooling around and shagging fly balls in the outfield during spring training. That in itself did not end the story. He returned on May 27, and for a while looked as if he had picked up right where he left off. In his first 8 starts after coming back, he went 6-2 with a 1.83 ERA. The same control was there, the same movement, the same ability to keep the ball down and make hitters beat him instead of letting him beat himself. Then came July 4 against Baltimore. Mid-game, he felt his arm, in his words, go dead. The official diagnosis at the time was not complete. The actual injury was a torn rotator cuff, but that would not be identified until 1985. He left after 5.2 innings. Eddie Murray had just hit a 2-run homer, and then the Orioles poured in 6 runs in the inning and won 6-4. Fidrych made 2 more starts, then went on the disabled list for the rest of the season. That is the hard turn in the case file. Not because the numbers suddenly collapsed, but because the damage was hidden in plain sight. He finished 1977 at 6-4 with a 2.89 ERA. He was still good enough to be invited to the All-Star game again. He had to decline because of the injury. While he was on the disabled list, he worked as a guest color analyst on Monday Night Baseball for ABC and got criticized for not being prepared. When Al Michaels tried talking to him about Richie Hebner, Fidrych asked, "Who's Richie Hebner?" The answer, of course, was that Hebner had been a National League player and Fidrych had never faced him. But the moment exposed something important. The public had already cast him as a baseball personality first and a pitcher second. The injury was starting to take the arm away, and the mythology was already running ahead of the medical reality. That was the point where the story changed direction, and the next chapter was no longer about whether Fidrych could be an ace, it was about whether the arm would ever let him be one again. In 1978, there was still enough of the old hope left to make the comeback look possible. Fidrych pitched only 3 games that season, but he won 2 of them, including opening day. That matters because it shows what the arm could still do when it gave him something to work with. The problem was not that he forgot how to pitch. The problem was that the story was now being written against time,
and time was winning.
By August 12, 1980, the Tigers had drawn 48,361 fans to Tiger Stadium for what turned out to be Fidrych's last serious attempt to climb back into the picture. That alone tells you how much memory he still carried. Even after the injuries, even after the lost seasons, people still showed up to see whether the bird could land one more time. He made his last Major League appearance on October 1 in Toronto. 5 innings, 4 earned runs. A win, 11-7 for Detroit, televised back home. A fitting detail, in a way. The box score still contained a victory, but the larger record already knew the ending was coming. Detroit released him after the 1981 season. He signed with the Boston Red Sox as a free agent and played for one of their minor league clubs, but the shoulder never truly came back. The torn rotator cuff had gone undiagnosed for years. By the time Dr. James Andrews discovered it and operated in 1985, the damage had already done its work. Fidrych was 29 years old when he had to retire from professional baseball. That is the part that is easy to miss when people remember only the quirks and the crowd noise. The career did not fade because the player lost interest. It faded because the injury had quietly stripped away the one thing that made the whole thing possible. And yet the record after baseball does not read like a man who was crushed by it. It reads like someone who stayed rooted. Fidrych married Anne in 1986. They lived on a 107-acre farm in Northborough, where they raised their daughter, Jessica. He worked as a contractor, hauling gravel and asphalt in a 10-wheeler. On weekends, he helped out at Chet's Diner on Route 20, the place later run by his daughter. He spent time at the local field, helping teach and play ball with kids.
In a 1998 interview, when asked who he would invite to dinner if he could invite anyone in the world, he said Mickey Stanley, because Stanley had never been to his house. It was a small answer, and a revealing one. The years had taken him far from Tiger Stadium, but not from ordinary life. He did not spend his post-baseball years trying to become larger than what he had been. He lived inside it. The irony is that the ordinary life only makes the old baseball life feel sharper. Fidrych was never an overpowering pitcher in the classic strikeout sense. His strikeout rates stayed below league average. What he had was control, movement, and the ability to keep the ball down. Over his first 2 seasons, he walked just 1.77 batters per 9 innings. He allowed only 23 home runs in 412 1/3 major league innings. The advanced numbers from 1976 back up what the eye test already said. That season was not a mirage. He led the American League in ERA, complete games, and several pitching categories. He also led the league in the specific kind of drama baseball can produce when everything is working at once. He was efficient, eccentric, and hard to ignore. For one summer, that combination made him one of the defining stories in the sport. What changed was not the idea of Fidrych, it was the body underneath it. The knee injury in 1977 was the first break. The rotator cuff tear was the real one. And because it was not diagnosed until years later, the story never got the clean baseball explanation people like to tell themselves. There was no single collapse, no one pitch that ended it, no easy headline that made the outcome feel neat. There was a strong rookie year, a partial return, and then a series of quiet losses that only make sense when you line them up next to the medical record. Even after his career ended, Fidrych kept getting remembered in the places that still cared about baseball's odd, bright cases. In 2002, he was inducted into the Shrine of the Eternals by the Baseball Reliquary. In April 2009, after his death, the Tigers held a moment of silence and played a video tribute at Comerica Park before a game against the White Sox.
At the time of his death, he was about to be inducted into the National Polish-American Sports Hall of Fame. That induction happened posthumously in June. Later that month, his daughter Jessica threw out the ceremonial first pitch at Comerica Park and manicured the mound just like her father used to do. The field at Algonquin Regional High School now bears his name. The Baseball Project even wrote him into a song called 1976. Baseball had not forgotten him completely, it had just let the outline blur for a while. The end came in Northborough on April 13th, 2009. According to the Worcester County District Attorney's Office, a family friend found Fidrych dead beneath his 10-wheel dump truck at his home around 2:30 in the afternoon. Authorities said he had suffocated after his clothes became entangled with a spinning power takeoff shaft. The medical examiner ruled the death an accident. Thousands attended his memorial service. A wrongful death lawsuit filed later by his widow was dismissed in 2017. Those are the facts, stark and spare, like a closing entry in a file that never needed embellishment. And maybe that is the right way to remember him. Not as a punchline, not as a novelty, not as a mascot for one noisy summer.
Mark Fidrych was a real pitcher who, for a stretch in 1976, was one of the best in the game. He won 19 games, led the league in ERA, and started the All-Star game as a rookie because he had earned that right on the field. Then injuries changed the rest of the story, slowly at first, then all at once. That is why he became harder to place in the larger history of the sport. The peak was unforgettable. The follow-through was interrupted. And the record, when you look at it carefully, shows a career that deserves to be read again, with more precision and less haze. At his best, Fidrych made baseball feel immediate and alive. What changed his direction was injury that was not fully understood in time. What made him forgotten was not lack of talent, but the shortness of the run after the summer everyone remembered. The record deserves a second look, because Mark Fidrych was never just the bird. For one season, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball.